Peace and grand rising to the sovereign, original, indigenous, natural, divine heirs. Today is October the 14th, 1442 on the ancient moon calendar, 1441 on the ancient sun calendar, and 2021 on the civil calendar. All rise and stand. This is a sovereign, living, ancient, Article 3, Moorish American, Al-Moroccan, World and Earth Court action. I am Sovereign Living Justice, Pauline Denise Ritchie, in capitis diminutio nolo, in red ink, in propria persona sui juris, in proprio solo, and in proprio heredes. My free chosen sovereign appellation is like Tajiri Bay, in capitis diminutio nolo, in red ink, in propria persona sui juris, in proprio solo, and in proprio heredes. We are the original, indigenous, sovereign, ancient, Al-Moroccan, Moorish American ascendants of the great pharaohs of Kemet and of the ancient Moabites and Canaanites. Our full faith and trust, our allegiance, our credit, and our energy are hereby vested in ourselves, for we are the people who are the original indigenous, natural, divine, de jure, Moorish National Republic federal government and the ancient empire state of Morocco. We hereby exercise all sovereign rights at this time and at all points in time, nunc pro tempore. Islam. So coming up on the October the 19th, 20th, and 21st. The 20th is the full moon. So we're going to have our 3-day full moon fast. So we want to just remind everyone about that. Some fast the whole 36 hours, the whole 72 hours, and do just water only for 72 hours. Others do sun up to sundown. Others do fasting from meat only. However you choose to do the fast, however you're led to do it. Some just stay away from negativity, and whenever they hear or see anything that does not sit right with their spirit, they just move away from it for those 3 days specifically, no matter who it's coming from. And so we're going to be doing that, and it is a peace and unity fast, and we are actually fasting for the peace of the whole earth and for the prosperity of the whole earth. And we know that we are the catalyst. We are the gold, the silver, and all of that for the earth. We're the prosperity for the earth. And so it's time for us to go ahead and move in that direction. And we want to keep our spirit dimensions right here with us and not have it be separate from us as we continue to do this work. So that's what the fasting is for. Fasting heals our bodies. Fasting heals our bodies. So October 19th, 20th, and 21st. And that's in 5 days from this, the date of this recording, Islam. The first thing we want to talk about is that we're going to go ahead and prove to you, most of you know that we proclaimed and declared our statehood on the public record on the 11th of September, 1442. So this was last month, that we proclaimed our statehood. And again, we're the ancient empire state of Morocco. And the reason we say empire state is because Morocco is the whole earth. It's the empire. And wherever we are, that is where the state of Morocco is. The empire state is. We are the empire. So we, since making that proclamation on the public record, we're seeing more and more evidence, and most people knew this beforehand, that the United States was not a state. They're not a government. And most knew that Washington, D.C. was not a state. So anyone claiming to be United States Corporation Company citizens, that's not a government, that's not a state, and you're essentially stateless if you claim that and you don't have and you can't prove nationality here. You're stateless. So everyone claiming United States Corporation Company citizens, please pay attention. It doesn't matter what your nationality is, whether you have a nationality or not, does not matter. You need to pay close attention because everyone has to get into their rightful place. And we're prefacing what we're going to talk about with this information. That way, as we move forward, we can see the need for everyone to do what they need to do in terms of proclaiming and declaring who they really are on our land, okay? So the first thing I wanted to do with regard to Washington, D.C., I'll place this link in the chat, and we will go to their website and take a look at their website where they say that they're not a state. We're the Empire State of Morocco. There cannot be two heads on this land. Okay? So when we go to that website, the link that we just put in the chat, this is what you'll see. They have something called frequently asked questions about statehood for the people of D.C. And the very first thing right off the bat is, what is Washington, D.C.? And it states right there on their website, Washington, D.C. isn't a state, period. Now, they can say a whole bunch of other things about what it is, but the most important characteristic of government is that government is the state. We've always heard that. The state is, and it's not any of those corporations called the 50 states and all of that. It's not that. Because in reality, all of those corporations doing business as the state of New York, the state of Kentucky, the state of Washington, and all of that, they are actually underneath the one that's saying they're not a state. That's where all of their documents that claim that they're a state are filed, is in Washington, D.C. The ones that are saying they're not a state. And you can't start as a state or start as not being a state and then produce a whole bunch of states. That's not how that works. You have to be a state first, and then you can produce a bunch of states. It's like we have to be Moors first, and then we can produce birth of Moors. That which starts in truth stays in truth. That which starts in fraud stays in fraud. So going on to their website, they say it right there, right out. And then they start talking about a U.S. Constitution. Well, if that Constitution did not make you a state, then someone needs to come back to the table and start talking. Okay? So they are seated, Washington, D.C., they're seated, and we are the standing government at America, which is ancient Morocco, the Maghreb al-Aqsa, the North Gate, North America, Northwest Maxim, Northwest Africa, Gaia, Earth, etc., Asia. And so now we want to take a quick look before we get really into where the rubber meets the road on some of the information. We want to look at the United States Corporation Company. And what are they saying about themselves? See, we've been saying some things, but what are they saying about themselves? Okay? What they're saying about themselves, the United States Just one moment. It's saying right here on the screen at 28 United States Code, subsection 3002-15. It says United States. Now, these are United States codes, so this is not something we're making up. We're actually looking at what are they saying about themselves. United States means A, federal corporation. Oh, not the government? No, they're not the government. B, an agency, department, commission, board, or other entity of the United States. Okay? That's not a government. That does not say government. And C, an instrumentality of the United States. So what are we saying? Well, if they're not the government, who is? Now, this is what they're saying. So who is everybody paying taxes to? Whose land are you on? How are you doing business here? Yes, Justice Shezerel, he put in the chat, and federal means contract. Yes. So who are you on our land, and who are you owing your allegiance to? They are already telling you that they're not the government and they're not the state. We're telling you that we are. We are the government, we're the state, we're the law, and when I say we, I mean every Moor born of a woman. Every Moor on this earth. So that's just setting the stage for the things that we've done so far and how all fiduciaries for the Empire State of Morocco, get ready. Get ready. Get ready. It's your time. So now, in August of 2018, we placed a lien on said federal corporation because they can't do anything without our permission. And at any time, we could come and say, okay, stop what you're doing. We're here. We have some commands for you. In the past, whenever we heard the foreign military occupation doing business as presidents, politicians, congressmen, businessmen, CEOs, etc., talking about infrastructure, for example, if you go back and look at the acceptance speeches of everyone who was doing business as president, the word infrastructure is always going to come out of their mouths repeatedly. Okay? Well, they've been talking about infrastructure, and we know that infrastructure, when we think about infrastructure, we're thinking about buildings and roads, bridges, sewer systems, etc. That's infrastructure, but there's another element to infrastructure that we need to be looking at and making sure we keep our eye on. Because that's what we need to be, and we have been focused on it, and you'll see that as we continue. But there's another element of infrastructure that they were not saying that we needed to point out, okay? So the element that they did not say, okay, is the one that's more important, even than roads and bridges. So they were really talking about the basic institutions that kept us in contract with them. That's the real infrastructure that When they use that word, it's code word for their Masonic brethren to make sure that that stays in place until the Moors take it out of place and replace it with the truth. What is that infrastructure? It's utility corporation, it's hospital, doctor corporation, it's foreign court corporation, it's school corporation, employment corporation, mortgage and rent corporation, payday loan corporation, bank corporation, driver license corporation, retail food and clothing corporation, passport corporation, postal service corporation, social security administration corporation, etc., etc., etc. Anything to keep the Moors in contract. Because, see, if they were pretending to be the state and we were in contract with them, that would mean we're not the state or the government either, according to the contract. Now, we've always been the state and the government. But if we're in contract with them, in that way, under them, filling out their form, instead of being the superior and the sovereign in the relationship, then that would mean we're handing off the governing of our vast estate to someone else. And they're saying, don't give us that because we're not the government. That's what they're saying. So these services that we just named is how 90% of them or more put their offspring into the best education camp, the best cars, the best houses, etc., all of that on our land. And we're not mad at them. They did what we told them to do, which is when the Moors are asleep and they're acting like they don't want to be the state and the government and they're not governing, then go ahead and do what you do. Whether they know it or not, because ignorance of the law is no excuse for us. We're the gods on the land. So all of those institutions, those capitalism institutions, because see, none of those institutions could do anything without the use of capital letters and dead ink. They couldn't. If you told them today, which we have, that you can't use dead ink and you cannot use capital letters for anyone, no matter what you do, you can't do that. You already know what they'll do. Shut down and stop movement on our land completely. So and see, for some, that's a scary thought. That, oh no, they're going to stop doing everything they're doing. Don't let that scare you. Because with regard to all of these institutions, everything that they're doing was already being done when they got here. We had lights before they came. Do the research. We had infrastructure before they came. And again, we're not mad at them, but we need to clarify here who's who and what's what as we move forward, because we're the Empire State of Morocco here on our land. And there's some things that we're doing and that we're going to do that command that there not be two entities trying to go back and forth, because that's not how this works. According to Unum Sanctum, again, and we say this all the time, and we're going to continue to say it, there cannot be two heads of this temple, and the temple is our land. There's only one, and it's the Moors. period. There is no other. So all of those institutions were their capitalism treasury chest. That was their real treasury, by the way. We're the real treasury because we kept contracting with them through those means. We can have everything that's available, the buildings and the structures and all of that. That stuff is already ours. But they were using their capitalism treasury chest of capital letters and dead ink to access all of that. And then anybody who tried to go outside of that, and more, you know this, would have to pay a penalty if they didn't do it right. There will be some type of penalty, whether it be a fine or loss of property or jail or possible loss of life if you try to come outside of that system and you didn't do it right. Well, what does doing it right look like? Congratulations, Morris, we did it. So we were the only ones giving them the authority to do that. How did we give them authority to do it? Among other conditions, our previous hesitation, and it was just hesitation just for a minute until we realized, wait a minute, we're the law and we're the government. But we hesitated at standing up, at being ourselves no matter what we were facing, at coming together in unity like we're doing now. And I'll tell you that the fasting together, that's the spirit realm coming together in unity with where we're concerned. Because fasting is one of those things you can't see, but it's affecting everything you can, especially when we do it together. Studying together like we do on these calls, sharing information freely, dropping the egos, because no one has bigger egos than the Moors. We know that. Let's just be honest. We have to drop that at what others might say and what others might do, you know, in terms of some have clan members and family members who are saying things negatively. We can't even let that stop us or bother us because they're going to need our help shortly. They probably need it already, to be honest. And then determining that we will not be stopped. Those are some things we hesitated at. And demonstrating our sovereign status every minute of every day in all things, not pro tunc. Those are some of the things that we're full force now doing that. But, you know, we were hesitant at first, and that's what gave them the authority to pretend to be the state, the Empire State. And what is the Empire State? The Empire State is, or who is the Empire State? It's us. Where is that located? Everywhere on earth. Everywhere. So the corporate state is not a valid state nor a valid government. They know that already. They're saying it out of their own. Here it is right here in plain writing. Okay. We Moors are the one and only heads of state at this ancient empire state of Morocco. Okay, so for those who needed to see that they are in subject status already, because it's right there in writing. So now, when we leave them, there were some things that took place, okay, that meant them getting in subject status. Yes, Justice Malik put in the chat the Clearfield Doctrine, corporations cannot govern. That's good. That's good. They can't. So let's take a look now at something that they were using called unum sanctum policy. But we want to look at unum sanctum broken down in their code. It's called positive and negative Roman law, or positive and negative Vatican law. All of that is unum sanctum. So I'm going to put in the chat a link so that we can look at a couple of the canons that they were using. And I want to thank Empress Tia she sent a few of these the other day, and we were looking and looking and looking for the rest of them because I wanted to see the whole thing. And sure enough, while we were talking on the phone, it popped up on my computer where we could see the rest of them. And some of you have seen these already. We want to point some things out as we move forward. The link to what we're going to be looking at is in the chat. So take a look at it, and we'll go there now. The first thing we want to look at is where land is concerned, because, see, we've been talking about land, okay? We've been talking about who, we're the heirs to all land, all natural resources, and all of that, which is absolutely true, and Islam. And so one thing we know about all of the language and the terminology that the courts use is that it is all fictitious. So when we say that they are fiction, they even say that they're fiction, and that the terms and the language that they use is fictitious language. It's fictitious grammar. That's why we went and the ancestors said, okay, don't use fictitious grammar anymore. Fictitious grammar is the stuff they taught us in those education camps. So what did we do? Ancient English. We started casting ourselves the way we wanted to cast them. So when you see these canons here about land, when we put it in red and all lowercase letters, it is absolutely the truth about us, but they've always known that. So let's look at Canon 1546, which is right here, right in the middle of the screen. It says, except for the divine creator. So they're saying, except for the Moors, by divine and natural law, physical matter within space cannot own one another, only themselves. They're saying except for the divine creator. Well, this is the Moorish divine and national movement of the world. So again, they know who we are. They know who we are. Anytime you see the word divine, they're talking about the Moors. The divine original bloodline and birthright. It says, so what they're saying here is, by divine law and natural law, physical matter can't own one another. They can only own themselves. What does that mean? Corporations don't own Moors, so they can't seize Moors and take Moors. But the Moors didn't know that. These canons came from the Vatican. And when we started waking up, the Vatican wiped their website of the ones over a certain point that apply to us. The Vatican Corporation. Okay? So if when someone says, prove that you all own all land and that you're the heirs and all of that, prove it. Just send them to the Vatican website and tell them to look at those canons. They're canon laws. And except for the divine creator, no one can own anything. Let's just make that clear. This canon is the basis for everything that says no one has the title, but the Moors can make the title. The Moors can generate a allodial title. That's what gives us the authority, is our bloodline and our birthright as divine creators. Therefore, the divine creator, also known as unique collective awareness, is the only true owner of all land in the universe, including the planet Earth, expressed into divine trust. They're talking about expressed trust there. And we have an expressed trust. All you have to do is open our mouths and express it. And we do that at the beginning of every call when we say our full faith and trust and credit and allegiance is in ourselves and in each other. So don't let, if you need proof, I'm just trying to provide proof here for the Moors so that you know that it is written. It's written. And everyone knows. We just didn't know, so let's teach each other. That's canon 1546. Let's look at canon 1548. Now, again, I will say this about these. These are hypothecated. So whenever the subjects put some information out there, they have to hypothecate it, or else, because they can never pretend to be us like that. In other words, they can't put it out there as if it comes from us. They have to put it out there as if it comes from them, and then we're supposed to know the difference. That's why they use capital letters and feudal terms and, those types of things. Because they can't say that they're us. We are us. And they knew that when we woke up, we would correct the record. 1548, when a particular location owing its existence to the first rightful claim of ownership of the divine creator to all land is lawfully conveyed into a true trust, this is called divine right of use, or divinity, representing the highest right of use above all other claims of right and title. And in other words, there's nothing that supersedes us. When some or all of these rights are then conveyed to a superior trust, this is known as realty or real property, thus the term real estate. That's where they got that from. But there's no real estate except that which belongs to the divine creator, which is all Moors. Being first right of use of land and immovables by divine right, our divinity says our bloodline, our birthright, states clearly on the record since time immemorial. And here's something about the Vatican that we all know, but I'll just state it just for the record. The Vatican and its location there, and I'm saying Vatican in red and all lowercase letters because I'm not talking about a corporation now. The Vatican was ours and is ours. The Vatican is ancient Timbuktu. That's what that building is, that structure is, that's on our land over there. We built it, it is ours, and it remains ours. That's part of our vast estate. And when these canons were written in this format, all they did was look at the records of the Moors and say, okay, let's put this out here so that when the Moors wake up, they'll be able to see their own records. And then they'll correct the records and put it on the public record the way they want to do it. So our ancestors, and I love them so much within us, because what they were saying is, yes, we wrote the original canon, but when you wake up, we want to see your competence at writing them and updating them so that they don't have feudal language in them. So this is just another test for us to put everything in red in all lowercase letters. They wanted us to do that. And then all they're going to do is look and see, did they do it the way we did it, and how close is it to what we did originally? So let's look at, I want to take just a moment. I'm hoping you can see what, let me just see. Oh, I apologize. You were not able to see what was on the screen, but let me just show you again. 1546, that was the first one that I read, and 1548 is the second one that I read, okay? Now, I want us to go to just one moment. There's some beautiful stuff coming in the chat. Thank you for that. Beautiful stuff. Yes, Empress Pia says, to whom much is given, much is required. Yes, that is the purpose of all of this. That's why we meet 3 times a week minimum, because we got a lot of ground to cover more. And yes, these you can put in your document. Add them to your affidavits and your liens and your writs and the things that you put on the public record. Add these canons to them, put them in red and all lowercase letters, add them to your fiduciary document. Okay, and then we'll put these links under this video on YouTube as well. So now, I want to show you some other canons that we can look at. Because we need to talk about currency, money. Because again, we don't want to be so spiritual that we're no earthly good. We actually have to deal with all of this, everything on our land that has to do with us. So let me, and again, as you can see, this stuff has been on the public record the whole time. It's been on the public record the whole time. We just needed to wake up and look. So let's take a look at currency and look at a few of the definitions here and the canon laws regarding currency and how currency is used, etc. I really want to take a look at quite a few of these actually, and this is not that extensive, but let's look at canon 1699. And we know that whenever we see anything that has 6s or 9s or those numbers together, that we need to pay close attention to those. We pay close attention to everything, but specifically the ones that have 6s and 9s in them. It says currency is a formal system of money based on some standard unit of measurement, a store of value, and a medium of payment and exchange. Money is anything that is generally accepted in exchange as payment for goods according to some estimated value. Does it say anything about Federal Reserve debt notes? No, it does not. So let us define what the standard unit of measurement is. The standard unit of measurement on the earth is the dollar, not the Federal Reserve debt note. It's the dollar. The dollar is not money. It's a unit of measurement. It's currency. It's a placeholder for whatever currency is put in that placeholder. And then whatever currency is put in that placeholder here on this land, then the rest of the earth pegs their national currencies to that money. They specifically put here in this canon law that currency and money they're similar, but they're not the same thing. The money is what is put in the space, and the unit of measurement says to everyone, okay, however much money the Moors put into this space as currency, you have to peg yours to theirs. Okay? And these are the qualities of currency. The quality of currency is it has to be based on some standard unit of measurement, which is the dollar, and that's earth-wide. It has to be a store of value. What's a store of value? A store of value keeps you from carrying actual gold bars around everywhere. That's why we print up diallarium like we do, so that we don't have to carry around actual gold or coffee beans or land or domiciles. We don't have to actually carry that around. We just say, okay, it's worth this many diallarium. So then when someone from East Africa or Asia comes and they say, the Moors said that that's worth, $50 million, then they'll look at their national currency and match it up and say, okay, of our national currency, this equals 50 million. So it's an even exchange in our national currency and the diallarium because they both equal $50 million. And then a medium of payment and exchange. Same thing like we were saying previously. Medium of exchange is we don't have to exchange gold bars for, some conveyance. We can just give diallarium. That's why we had to proclaim the gold standard being activated for us in 2019. And then we said, okay, now the gold standard never went anywhere, but we're going to go ahead and put it on the public record that, okay, everyone, we're dealing in the gold standard here. And then the state started saying, oh, gold is legal tender, gold and silver are legal tender here. That means diallarium is not just lawful, because it's lawful, it's highly lawful, but it's legal tender also. And then money is anything. Because, see, people get money mixed up. We get confused because of the programming. But in the unum sanctum structure, and when I say unum sanctum structure, I'm talking about the unum sanctum that we placed on the public record. In the unum sanctum structure, money is anything. That's according to unum sanctum law and policy. It's policy when they do it. It's law when we say it. Money is anything that's generally accepted. It's not even being specific. It's saying if you think that's money, okay, it's that's money. And diallarium is generally accepted among the Moors. We have many emails to prove that, and text messages and everything else. It is the medium of exchange for us. So when you say money is anything that is generally accepted in exchange as payment for goods according to some estimated value. Who is it that can say to the Moors, well, that's not money? Who has the authority to say that? That diallarium is not money? Who? No one. Definition after definition, law after law, policy after policy, all of that. There's not a single thing that's out there that says diallarium is not money. Why? Because the heirs have said it is. And that's in alignment with sovereign law. So let's look at the next one. While the chief function of money is to act as a medium of exchange, and this is canon 1700. When money is formalized to be recognized as a store of value, a unit of account, and method of payment according to certain rules, then it may be regarded then as currency. And may means it shall. Okay? It just requires recognition by make sure you can hear me. Islam, can you hear me more? Just one moment. Islam, can you hear me more? If someone could just put it in the chat. Let me just make sure. Yeah, it's the same. Just one moment. Let me get down to the bottom of the page. Okay. Okay, good. Islam. So now, canon 1701. All currency, and therefore money, may be defined into two types according to the method of underwriting the value of the money, commodity and property. And commodity is natural resources, period. And in the case of Moorish sovereign delarium, it's natural resources, but it's also the word of the Moors. And then property, more natural resources, because property and commodity is the same thing with us. Because as we stated at the beginning of this, of looking at the canon, that the divine creator is the quote-unquote owner of the land and all of its natural resources too. Okay. So now, canon 1702. And actually 1701, when you're talking about underwriting, you're talking about what it is that backs that currency. Okay. And again, we were the only reason fiat was flying around anyway. Federal Reserve debt notes were flying around because we said, oh, let's just use that. That's the only thing that gave it any use. And I hesitate to use the term value, but we can use that too. It's debt value. So when Moors say, can we go and buy things with delarium? Do you know what money and currency is? That will answer your question. Look that up and do the study. Because who is it that handles money all the time but cannot define it? Then we have to do some study, that's all. We're just waking up. That's 1702. Commodity currency is the simplest form of currency, whereby the money itself is the underwriting and carrier of value. That is how simple mors sovereign delarium is. It is a commodity in and of itself. Why? Because it has our sovereign autograph on it. And the highest seal in heaven and on earth, our white red thumbprint. Period. The most common examples of commodity currency are gold and silver coins. That's the most common example, but there are others, such as mors sovereign delarium with a seal and a white red thumbprint. Now, and listen, if you don't believe me, look at the way they use fiat. Look at the way they used it. And again, they couldn't have done that if we had said then what we're saying now. We have our own money. We'll print our own. We got it. And it says now rarely minted in favor of debased metal coins of less intrinsic value. What they're saying is gold and silver coins are not really something that people use regularly, but I will say that we should. And for those who don't want to carry around that delarium. (1703). Property currency is any currency that uses rights of property by claim, lien, and other mechanisms as the method of underwriting. Have we been leaning more? Yes, we have. So there is yet another support or backing for our ability to use currency that we print. All property currency is based upon the rules of negotiable instruments. In other words, they're saying, you know, if you have a lien with it, then you can use your currency. And the lien is currency also. So we really have commodity currency and property currency in our hands all at once. All property currency is based upon the rules of negotiable instruments and the associated concept of temporary trust in which to convey the property. And that's where there's a little bit of hypothecation, because we live forever and our trusts do too. So they're not temporary. That's why we're able to wake up and say the things we say and everyone stop what they're doing so that we can do what we're doing. 1704. All notes, also known as banknotes and bills, are by definition fungible negotiable instruments. Therefore, property currency based upon one or more classes of property conveyed into temporary trust as its store of value. A bank may choose to issue one banknote against one temporary trust for one trust corpus of property, or may choose to issue multiple banknotes against a temporary trust to the total value of the trust corpus. All that saying, again, when we spell the word note the way we want to spell it, delarium will be that too, except it's not debt. Delarium is not a debt instrument. It could never be a debt instrument because it does not come from a corporation. It comes from the living. Now, let's jump to 1707. And again, you all can take the time to look these over in your study time. We're jumping around just a little bit. Let's look at 1706. The principle of property currency based on liens is the acceptance by an estate that because the property under lien cannot be effectively seized, the lien holder is granted permission to monetize their right and then sell the debt to recoup their loss. All they're saying is, since you can't literally lift up domiciles and land and all of the things that have been liens, then you can monetize the lien. Okay, so with our money system and our banking, we can actually take the liens to our own bank and get sovereign credits for them. And again, as we move forth in what we're doing, you'll be able to go online and see the sovereign credits there, and then go right down the street and use the sovereign credits however you want to use them. Period. 1707. The significant difference between monetized maritime liens, and they're saying maritime liens, so when we rewrite these, we just put whatever language we want to use in there. But for the sake of this, we'll just talk about maritime liens anyway. The significant difference between monetized maritime liens conveyed into a trust and issued through the structure of property, currency, and negotiable instruments is that a monetized bill of exchange is not permitted to be dishonored by any merchant within the Roman system without severe penalties. It says it right there, not permitted to be dishonored. Property, currency, and liens conveyed into trust. On our written liens, there's a space where property is conveyed into trust. And then the fiduciary document makes it so that the property that they were claiming was on paper, and it only existed on paper. Okay, it only existed on paper. They didn't claim any real property because they don't own any real property. The real property belongs to the heirs. So we do a court action and send the court to Guantanamo Bay, and then we claim the real property by lien. And then what do? We can issue diallarium based on the lien. We can monetize our own liens. And then anything out there, they are not permitted to be dishonored by any merchant without severe penalties. In other words, they're not permitted to be dishonored, period. It says this is because maritime liens represent the highest lien coming from the authority of the highest estate. And remember what we said about the Empire State of Morocco. Whenever you see the word estate, that's talking about the state. We are the only one who has an estate, which means we're the only state. The highest estate. All other states, quote unquote, are subject to our estate. It says, and to dishonor this authority is to dishonor the entire global Roman land, property, and finance system of the world. Well, we would put Roman, the Roman system. And again, what is the Roman system? It's a system that uses those type letters, the letters that you see, the letters that we use in red and all lowercase letters. So when you think about Roman numerals, they're letters. We've been using a Roman system the whole time, and we just, no one said that. They kept saying this is English. Corporate English at that. But Roman numerals are actually letters. We are the original indigenous Rome. And then there's the hypothecated foreign Rome in all capital letters and dead ink. So everything that we are and all that we are and all that we have done, all they did was capitalize it, put it in capital letters and dead ink, and start going back and forth fooling people and tricking people and going to and fro seeking whom they may devour. So when you're talking about liens, Moors who don't know the lien process learn the lien process and begin using it. And feel free to put these canons in your collateral statement. And again, we have a lien template, and I'll put a couple of my liens under this video so you can take that and look at it, study it, and then create your own. Okay, and the liens, we generally put at least one lien under all the videos on YouTube at Light Tajiri Bay channel. So it says that to dishonor this authority is to dishonor the entire global Roman land, property, and finance system of the world. We're very powerful, Moors, very powerful. We have more authority than we ever knew, and that was the reason why there was so much back and forth about our estate. Okay? So, lawful notes, yes, Justice Yermo, yes, absolutely. He was saying that when we talk about notes, we're talking lawful notes. Absolutely. So let's look at 17:0. Yes, those are the ones we wanted to look at there. And then you all can you can just look through these. We have put the link in the chat so that you can look at them. And again, these are hypothecated, so like at the end of this, you'll see them talking about Euclidean societies and all of that. Whenever you see the word society, generally it's citizens trying to do something there, okay? Because for us, it would be, it's all about nation and state and government and empire, okay? So pay that no mind. So now let's take a look because I really wanted to quickly get to this next section here regarding liens. And I'll put this link in the chat so that you can, if you want to go there and follow along and make sure, and then we'll put all of these links under the video. Okay. Here's Mom. Thank you, Embassy, in the chat. That's good. She said, she quotes, "For thus saith the Lord that created the heavens, God himself that formed the earth and made," she's quoting Isaiah 45:18. Yes, it's Mom. And we are the ones who said, "Let us go down and make man in our image and after our likeness." We exist on many different dimensions. On all dimensions. And we rule and reign and have dominion on every dimension. You just have to know it. So let's take a look at liens in the canon laws. Now think about this more, because this is kind of, you know, what is the Vatican doing talking about liens? Just think about that. What is the Vatican doing talking about liens? Aren't they supposed to be, you know, telling people about God? Wasn't that was supposed to be what they were supposed to be doing? But as we can see, there was way more to that piece than we thought. And please forget about that thing about separation of church and state. That doesn't even exist, as you can see. So now, where liens are concerned, 2079, let's just look at this. A lien is a legal fiction, and they say legal fiction because, again, in their language that they're using, anything that's not living is a legal fiction. So they're right until we do it. Our liens are not legal fiction. because they're issued by the living. And that's why we do it by affidavit. And when we do it by affidavit, an unrebutted affidavit stands as law. So we'll just go with what they wrote here. It says a lien is a legal fiction first created during the reign of Henry VIII of England, whereby one who is owed a debt may lawfully claim certain rights over the property of another who owes the debt until it is paid. Hence, a lien is a non-possessory property interest over certain assets to secure the performance of an obligation, usually the payment of a debt. When they say non-possessory, we have to look at that with our third eye. Okay? Whoever we liened did not own any land in the first place. They were tenants on the land. They were tenants, still are. And all we did was wake up and say, oh, that's right, we are the Lord for the land. So let's lien all of this unlawfulness and then begin to do what we do in terms of possessing the land. Now, where they are concerned, a lien is non-possessory property interest. Where we're concerned, we already possess everything. Always have and always will. Again, we are the lords of the land, for the land. I'm trying to make sure I don't miss anything in the chat too. Just on. Yes, Islam, Empress Pierre, she's putting some good things in there. A possessory lien refers to pawn shops. Empress Shatali put that in the chat. Possessory lien refers to pawn shops. That is a way of, yes, that's a way, thank you, that's a daily application of possessory lien. Possessory lien is also everything that we lien. Our liens are considered by us and by law hybrid liens, simply because our liens are whatever we say they are. The sovereign can go between the veil and have and do, in other words, we can be both legal and lawful at any given time. But then when we move into legal, okay, we're still the law there. So we're not going under anything legal because there's nothing that could ever be over us. We are the law. So in other words, we set the law for wherever we go. We set it. Okay? In other words, when we walk in, whatever we say is the law. Especially and when we're competent and peaceful. Whatever we say is the law. So legal doesn't really have, it kind of almost doesn't have a thing to do with it. If we say we're legal, then it's legal. Because we said it because we're the law. So if we say that our liens are possessory, all we do is put that in the collateral statement and say we hereby possess this with this lien. Now, as we move forward, we've been putting things line upon line and precept upon precept, here a little and there a little. The ancestors have been giving us piece by piece so that we can get the information and then demonstrate the information, and then they say, okay, now let's put something else on with that. They gave us the lien information, and now they're saying, okay, now put some delarium with that, and you got an even more access to the vast estate. Okay, so where possessory is concerned, when we say it's possessory, it is. And then it says here, canon 280, the owner of the property, which is the Moors, against which a lien is placed is called the liener, while the person who has the benefit of the lien is usually called the lienee. Now again, ultimately we own all property, therefore our liens are already. We're not liening ourselves. All we're doing is saying corporations can't own anything because the true divine creator has arrived, is here. And so when I say that these are somewhat hypothecated, and again, they had to present them from their own status. They couldn't really present them for us. We have to do that. Okay. Canon 2081, a lien is an encumbrance over the particular property alienated. So when we talk about unalienable rights and inalienable rights, we have unalienable and inalienable rights by virtue of our status as divine creator. Okay, so when we place a lien, that means we're alienating anything and anyone that's not us from that property. Now, that sounds possessory to me. It says, therefore, a lien can cause the title held by the owner to be defeated, terminated, annulled, voided, or invalidated if the performance of the obligations of the lien are not met. So when they talk about title, they're always talking about deeds because they don't have a title. Okay? But when Prophet Noble Drew Ali was doing his demonstrations, he encumbered all land, all titles that they were claiming were titles. So he already did it too. And all we did was say, okay, let's do some fresh liens on everything because the time span has expired in terms of, it never expires for us, but for occupation of our land, there's a 70-year, according to the quote-unquote United Nations law of war, there's a 70-year time period, and then there's also a 50-year and a 70-year time period whereby things start to be, whereby the Moors wake up and we start doing what we're doing, okay? A 50-year and a 70-year. So every 50 years and every 70 years, something happens along these lines right here of what we're doing. How far we get in that process depends on us. We've determined that we're not stopping, period. So let's see, canon 2082. Let's look at that one. Under the inferior Roman system of law, and again, you can take your time and look through these and do the study and choose which ones that you want to edit according to your will, because you're sovereign and you can do that, and incorporate into your document or put into your document. Under the inferior Roman system of law, property may be affected by more than one lien. The lien that is considered the first lien is the lien that takes priority over all other encumbrances over the same property. The second lien has second priority, and so forth for all of the liens. Morris, how far back do our liens really go? Since time immemorial is the answer. But every so often, our ancestors will say, okay, there's a new bunch of heirs, a new nation of heirs that need to know these processes. So let's set everything up so that we can wake them up and teach them. And if they keep their energy clear, we'll speak through them and show them what to do and show them all the answers. All they have to do is keep their energy clear, unify, and assist one another. And we'll tell them what to do. That's what our ancestors say every so often. They say, here comes some more heirs. So we have the oldest liens on everything. First in time, first in line. 2083 liens may be regarded as consensual or non-consensual. A mortgage is a form of consensual lien. A tax lien is a form of non-consensual lien. We actually had to consent to be liened because we were, and they didn't lien us, but those corporate statuses and instruments was our consent, okay? And at any given time, we can just dissolve that whole situation of corpse this and corpse that by placing a superior sovereign supreme lien on those instruments, which we've done. That's why we say, Moors, be sure that you lien that straw and the Social Security number, lien it. So that you're not consenting to them liening it and holding you as surety. Let's move forward. We'll go through just a few more of these. Under the inferior Roman system of law, secret liens are permitted to be created against certain property, yet kept secret and therefore not appearing on records available to any purchaser or holder of the property in direct contravention to all principles of law. To reinforce the absurdity and fraud against the very principles of law, these liens are openly called secret liens. Let's see, what is an example of a secret lien that the foreign occupiers placed that we didn't know about? And I can think of about 30 of them right off the bat. Secret liens that they placed that we did not know about until now. IRS, yes, in the chat. Yes, the IRS. I'm going to put the meeting in star 6. I think we should be okay to do that. Just 1 moment. Let me make sure. Okay, the IRS, that's one of them. Because remember, the U.S. Trademark and Patent Office had a trademark on dead ink. So it's an automatic tax. And they didn't say anything about it. But let me tell you that the secret treaty of Verona, you've heard of the secret treaty of Verona, many of you have. Article 3 talks about keeping the heirs of the estate docile by putting, quote unquote, leaders who will ameliorate their own interests over the freedom and the waking up of the heirs. Well, the secret treaty of Verona and all treaties are liens. Those are commercial documents. And they hold someone accountable as a debtor. The Sedeke Act, or some say Sesta QV, of 1666, that is a lien on all corpses. Okay? We'll look at a couple of more of these, and then I want to go to another portion of this. I mean, there's some really good stuff in here that we can put in red in all lowercase letters and use. Let's see. I wanted to talk about the 3 types of liens that they say. Maritime liens are supposedly the highest form of lien in here, and then Canon 2090 says the second most powerful form of lien, and they do use the word form of lien. That's why we don't fill out their forms, because that does not apply to the Moors. We do actual liens. They do forms of liens. The second most powerful form of lien under inferior Roman law is an agricultural lien by the executors or administrators of an estate against a tenant and beneficiary of the estate, whereby a wide variety of the encumbrances may be applied, including the lawful seizure of all property held by the person. Now, that canon right there, when it talks about liens against the tenant and beneficiary, they're talking about when we lien the corpses are the beneficiary of the debt estate. Yes, that is an estate of debt that they, and when we say render unto Caesar that which is Caesar's, we're saying give them back their debt estate, which is paper. So for us, again, in one part of this, they say that some liens are not possessory. This says that the liens are possessory. Okay? Lawful seizure of all property held by the person, and we know we're not persons. We are the executors, ministers, trustees. We are the beneficiaries as well of the creditor estate, not the debtor estate. We are unalienable and inalienable. This is the law, okay? This is not something that we're making up. It's the law. So this one, 2091, I want to bring this up because it mentions the subbjecte. The power that permits agricultural liens, their legal effect is deliberately misconstrued as statutory law, constituting a deliberate corruption and fraud of law, negating under all principles of law such liens from the beginning. What they're saying is agricultural liens are fraud from the very beginning. Why? Because they don't own land. No one owns land but the heirs. Period. It says, instead, the effective power of these liens is the deed and will of the estate and the status of the person as either a beneficiary and tenant, or subbjecte v. use as a beneficiary of the subbjecte v. trust, not statute. And again, this is hypothecated because they're not saying anything about the title to the land, but they even say here that it's corruption and fraud. And then 2092, the third most powerful form of lien under inferior Roman law are commercial liens, also using estate law, but through the membership of persons to securitize estates whereby private and commercial entities operate as the executors and administrators, and persons remain merely tenants of both immovables and movables. Highly hypothecated canon, okay, it's highly hypothecated. But again, our liens are the highest form of lien, not the highest form, but the highest status liens, just like we're the highest status. Anything that comes from us is the highest status. Whether it's a commercial lien, whether it's what they call a maritime lien, whether it's a real estate or real property lien, it doesn't matter. Any lien coming from us, again, is a hybrid. In other words, we can call it a commercial lien, but it's still the highest and takes precedence over all others. Canon 2093 for those who have been looking at the dead pledge system or the mortgage system. All mortgages are commercial liens relating to a state law of securitized estates where the banks and financial institutions are legally considered. Doesn't mean they are, it just says they're legally considered the executors and administrators, and the lenders are always considered tenants whether they pay off their loan or not. Now, this is talking about the corporations who have been creating all of this debt. That's why they say it doesn't matter whether they pay it off or not, they're still considered a lender. So when we put delarium on the record for anything out there, we are obliterating this relationship here that says that banks and financial institutions as lenders can just pass their debt on to the heirs. We obliterate that relationship right there when we give delarium. Delarium is an automatic collapsing of the Theta KB trust, automatically. Justice Yearmore, I see something that you put in the chat, and I don't know why that is because I haven't changed anything. I haven't changed any of the settings. Islam. Islam nobility.
That was not something that you said or changed. It's something that's in their language that I wanted to just drop the note in there because it reminds. Don't worry,
okay,
if it's something you said, I know what you're doing, and I'm not going to try to contradict you. I'm only here to assist. Islam?
Islam. I haven't changed any of the settings on the meeting, so everything should be still the same for everyone. And you can't really change things for individuals.
A little note with a lock on it. It says the host has limited who can receive your messages.
Let me go in and check the preferences, because that I haven't done anything like that. I don't even know how to do that. I know how to turn it on and turn it off for everyone.
Don't push the red button.
Okay. Yeah, it says meeting chat is on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was there last week too, but I said it might have been an anomaly, but I said I better ask once I saw that. Okay.
Yeah. If you could see this this dashboard here, it either happens for everyone or, you know, it's all or nothing with this thing. It doesn't let you single people out and do things like that.
Islam.
So, Islam. And I have not changed any of these settings. They still look, the settings look the same. Okay. So, but I know that Free Conference Call has been updating some of their stuff. I don't really pay that much attention to that, to what they're doing. I just want to get the information out to the heirs as quickly as possible. So, whenever you're talking about mortgages and extinguishing this trust, because when you start talking about executors, administrators, liens, lenders, tenants, you're talking trust law. When you're talking banks and financial systems, that means there's a trust in place that you may or may not know about. And in order to extinguish all of that unknown behavior, okay, we have to bring the real. Let me see. With regard to that, I see what you're saying in the chat. I have not changed anything with regard to this platform, so I don't know why it's saying that. Yeah. Apparently, just as you're more, others are having that same issue of where it's saying that they can only chat partially or something like that. Cannot chat to individual. Let me see. Let me just make sure that. The meeting chat is on. Yeah, the meeting chat is on. Okay. Okay. So there's let's see. And again, now I want to pay close attention. Us to pay close attention to Canon 2094, so that we will know that these are, we have to rewrite these canons and do them according to the way that we should do them. It says the fourth and least powerful form of lien under Roman law are judicial liens issued by a competent court in accordance with some dispute. That was before, or let me see, that was, when they say a competent court, they're still talking incompetent court. Okay? Because their courts were under Roman law. Our courts are not under anything. Our courts are sovereign, and they're Article 3. So our liens, and again, that's why our liens are hybrid, because our liens are issued by the consular court as judicial liens, but they're also commercial liens and other forms of liens, okay? So our liens are hybrid, and that is, they have all authority and the highest priority in all of those categories of liens. And then finally, canon number 2095, I really wanted to point this one out. In the argument of priority between liens, a lien may be considered perfected or unperfected. A perfected lien is one in which a creditor possesses the property or has established a priority right in the encumbered property with third-party creditors or has registered a claim. So our liens are perfected the moment we put them on the public record. We don't register our liens with anyone but ourselves and our government. And putting them on the public record is registering them, but not really. Again, we spell register a different way. So it's allodial sovereign recording of liens, and recording is actually the right word. Register is not the right word. Okay. So for those who had questions about, well, I didn't perfect the lien because I didn't jump through 30 hoops, you didn't have to. All you had to do was do the lien and put it on the public record, and it's perfected. Okay? And see, the hybrids knew that. They knew all we had to do was get them out there on the public record. That's all we had to do. And it's perfected. Send it. When you get it to the post office, it's considered delivered. Because notice the agent is notice the principal. Notice the principal is notice the agent. Okay, I see something in the chat. It says register. Yes, thank you, Empress. Public record book, private account book, and official written account regularly kept from Old French register, 13th century, and directly from medieval Latin registrum, or registrum, properly registrum, from late Latin. It says list matters recorded. A noun, use of Latin. Let's see, to record, to retort, literally to carry back or bring back, from read back, to carry or to bear. Yeah, Islam with the etymology on that word, register. So again, you know, when we do things more, there are some who they have a slight understanding of a process, and sometimes the naysayers will, they will say, well, that lien doesn't count because you didn't do this, 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 and this. And we were saying the whole time, more just get them on the public record and send them to D.C., you know, and some more were sending their liens to the secretary the Secretary of State, quote unquote, or the Attorney General, or some were taking them to sending them to the DMV, the Department of Motor Vehicles. All of that is public record, so they're still valid. Still. But I will say this. There was specific energy that had a vested interest in trying to make us doubt that what we were doing was effective. We have to keep that in mind. The experts were not experts. They didn't know what they were doing. Look at Wall Street and the hot mess that happened from there. We have to trust our own study and trust our own spirit. Trust the ancestral energies will get us wherever we need to go. They're never going to leave us hanging. They're always going to make sure that everything that we do, when we honor them, it's a wrap. It's a wrap. You said here, Justice Marie said, look at 2096. Let's take a look at that. I was going to stop at 2095, but let's look at 2096. It says, as all property rights come from divine trust. Yes. And again, who is the divine? Who's the divine? Our prophet said, if I can just get you to think, you'll free yourself. Islam. It says, from divine trust to true trust and then superior trust, no inferior Roman official, entity, or person has any possible valid claim against a universal trust. Therefore, any inferior Roman lien issued against a universal trust automatically is null and void. Absolutely correct. Absolutely. It's a wrap, Lord. We got this already. We won before we ever woke up. We get to state all of this. I wanted to, we've run out of time now, but I wanted to go into set of QV. I wanted to go into that because it has its own section in these canons. And when you see the stuff that's in there, it's like, we won already, Lord. We don't have to worry about any of that. I'm going to go ahead and do just the one, okay? There's one specific canon that, to me, makes it all worth it. Because we publicly rebutted the set of KV or set of KV on the public record. But I want to show you this one more, because this is really interesting. And I'm going to put the link to where we are in the chat right now. This is the link to subbjecte trust. Now, remember, this is all unum sanctum. This is all underneath unum sanctum that they were doing. All of this. Who knew that when you saw the Pope rolling up down through the street with his caravan, that he was doing all of this? Who knew that? I didn't. So this Article 100 is about the subbjecte or subbjecte trust. Subbjecte is French, and when I say it in French, I say subbjecte. But we'll say subbjecte just for the yes, Justice Theodore. That was a dirty so-and-so right there. That was dirty. But I want to show you one in particular, and again, feel free to look through these when you have time to do so, and we'll go through them on our a future call. But I want to show you something specific. Let's look at Canon 2048. It says, and this is under subbjecte, since 1933, when a child is born in a state, remember what we said about the state and the estate. We are the empire state of Morocco. They're not a state, but we thought they were, so because they were issuing documents. It says since 1933, when a child is born in a state or estate under inferior Roman law, 3 subbjecte trusts are created upon certain presumptions, specifically designed to deny the child forever any rights of real property, any rights as a free person, and any rights to be known as man and woman rather than a creature or animal by claiming and possessing their soul or spirit. Listen, Morris. That's since 1933. But remember, you see how this is here? Our prophet was mitigating some damages. He was stopping things, all of this madness. And here we are today doing the same thing, stopping the madness. Madness. It ends with the Moors. When they talk about state and estate, so think about some of the other things that happened in 1933, because this is the real point where delirium is concerned. In 1933, that's where House Joint Resolution 192 was put on the record. And because the Moors did not have their own money, all of this other stuff kicked in, and that was from 1913, 1925, when the United States Corporation Company incorporated again after going bankrupt again. And we didn't print our own money. So what did they do? They started the madness all over again. This time we're not letting that happen. It's a wrap already. We've already stopped it because of the money. And now, more, it's up to us to send delirium out every chance you get. Any demonstration that you do, send delirium out with your demonstration. Because they were planning on taking and capitalizing a whole different set of birth certificates at this time. That was what they were planning on doing, but they can't do that. Because guess what? We created our own sovereign living birth affidavit. And each Moor can create that on government letterhead in red and all lowercase letters as the creditor. The madness stops with us. It stops with us. And yes, Every time we went into those quote-unquote Vatican-owned churches, and that's only on paper, and again, we're not mad at Christians, because the true Christianity is not under any fraudulent Vatican. True Christianity is not under any fraud. So true Christianity is actually true and honorable. It's the fraud and the corpses and the corporations we're talking about, trying to possess souls and spirits. Yes, this is spiritual. It's spiritual as well as it is manifested in this realm. This is a spiritual thing too. That's what the fasting is all about. And all of that is we're dealing with the seen and the unseen. That's what the meditation and the peace, practicing peace is all about, and not warring, doing things in a peaceful manner and not conjuring up a bunch of war energy. That's what this is all about, more, because they were out for souls and spirits. Who wants their heir soul taken by a corpse? No one. That's why we do what we do.
You have a right to property, but not mine.
Just one moment. Okay, I'm going to let you speak since you said something. What property do you own?
I own my home, and I own acreage, and I worked for it. I paid for it myself.
What did you pay? No, let's
and
hear her
you
out.
do have a right to own property under substitute V. It's very clear. You're human, you can work, and you can own property. But you don't answer my questions ever. So, I mean, it's kind of silly to even talk to you.
For the property
you do not own my property. You do not own my property.
Of exchange? What was the medium of exchange? Did you use real money or did you use fake money?
Of course I used real money. Of course I used real money. You're just silly. I didn't use money I printed on my computer. I didn't use money I printed on my computer. Come on. Come on.
Okay, so who issued the money that you used? Who issued
I
the
earned
money
my
that
money.
you used?
I earned my money. I worked and I earned my money.
I said, who issued it?
The hospital I worked for. The company I worked for.
Who?
Of course.
The company you work for, is it a corporation?
No. I don't think you call it a corporation, no. No.
Okay.
Not a corporation.
And what did they issue? What kind of money? Was it Federal Reserve notes?
The exact same money that the VA puts in your checking account every month, Pauline. I earned that kind of money. Exactly. Hey, if you don't like that money, why don't you turn it back into the VA? Turn it back in.
Wait a minute. This is my platform here, and this is the platform of the Moors. So we're not going to argue here. I want to hear what you have to say, but you have to be respectful of the platform. Now, I'm asking the questions here for a reason, because we want to hear, but we're not going to argue, because that's not what this is about. Okay? Now, I'll ask you again, and I'll unmute you, because, see, you mentioned the VA. I'm the creditor, and I've terminated all corporate contracts. So what's put into a sovereign resource account is a sovereign resource for a sovereign to use. Now that we've got that cleared up, don't leave. I want to hear the rest of what you have to say. Where'd you go? Here you go, right here. Okay. I'm going to unmute you again. What kind of quote-unquote money did you use to pay for said quote-unquote property? Who issued the money? If it was money at all. You're unmuted, you can speak. Okay. I think we have our answer. Have you terminated all corporate contracts? Are you in your proper status? I'm just asking. Those are questions that, because again, we want to hear from everybody anyway. Any modern Europeans who want to come in and ask questions, feel free. We're not going to argue though, because we're the nobility, and we don't go down into all of that. We know how to communicate properly. So again, you feel free to respond, because see, if what you use was not real money, then there's no real property that you own. So that's the part we want to put forth is, what is your status on the land? Do you have the authority and the status to own property? Because see, we read in the canons a little earlier that no one owns property except the divine creator, which is us. We are of the bloodline and the birthright. So now, again, I don't mind hearing from you, but we're going to keep it noble here on this platform. You were asked some questions. If you speak up, answer the question. If you don't want to answer the questions, then that's proof that you don't want competent dialogue. We're always looking for competent dialogue, no matter where it comes from. We don't hate anybody. In fact, we welcome all dialogue. But the dialogue must be lawful. Lawful dialogue says that we will ask you some questions and you'll answer the questions. This is a court action still. So, now, with regard to the sedekv, back to that. We will go further into sedekv on a future call. I'm not sure if it will be the next one, depending on, you know, what the ancestors give us between now and then, in terms of the finance piece and how we're moving forward in that part of our vast estate, because that is a part of our vast estate, so that we can free our minds to create things that really, really grow the vast estate, Islam. So with that being said, I don't think that she's going to answer any of the questions.
I did answer your question. I paid for my mortgage just like you paid for yours.
No, you didn't. No, you didn't.
I did.
Then you did pay for the mortgage.
Then you didn't because I don't have a mortgage. So you didn't.
Okay, I don't have a mortgage now, but when I did, I paid for it with United States government money.
Do you know what a mortgage means? Do you know what that word means? Do you know what that means? It means dead pledge.
Of course.
Are you dead?
Of course. No.
Are you dead?
I don't think so. I don't think so. I don't think so.
Wait a minute now. Now hold on. If you don't know that you're not dead, then you need to check your status if you're not sure. Check your status.
Okay.
Because to me that sounds like you don't know for sure. I know I'm the living.
Okay, the Air Force paid your money, and the Navy paid mine.
You paid for the Air Force.
Are you living?
The United States government did, of course. And I got my paycheck from the United States government, just like Pauline. Exactly.
I think that you're not living.
And get off.
I think that you're not the living. because you don't know. You must know. You have to know. Mortgage means dead pledge. And I'll say this about that too. Anyone who's claiming a mortgage is claiming to be dead. That's number one. Number two, if they're sending documents saying something is due, give them delirium and break that trust. Break the trust. Because they're trying to contract with you. Break the trust. Collapse it. Delirium will do that. Look at these canons here, because that's when mortgages came into being. 1913, 1933. That's where mortgages come from. We're talking about that right here, right now. Now, if you come onto the platform and you have some things to say and you want to answer some questions, then feel free to answer some questions. But we're going to keep pointing to the law here. With that being said, we've gotten about 4 minutes over in our time period, and we thank whoever that was that came on. We appreciate you. We appreciate you. Because, see, at some point the dialogue has to happen, but it's going to be honorable, noble dialogue. It's not going to be a bunch of madness. Islam.
In respect of our platform and our court, shouldn't they have to identify themselves before we allow them to speak?
We know who they are. She's talking about a mortgage. She identified herself, didn't she?
I just heard her talking. I was just knowing their settings that you have to identify before you're given a platform to speak. It seems very rude on her part.
I'm glad you said that. I'm glad you said that, nobility, because, see, when we were going into those fake courts, we thought we were just talking and trying to, quote unquote, defend ourselves, but we were identifying ourselves as citizens by even being there. She's identified herself because she's talking about how she owns property and all of that, and she paid the same pay, according to her, that the Air Force paid a court. So she's identifying herself as a corpse. And then when I asked her if she was a living, what did she say? I think I am. I don't know. That's not really, She identified herself. I asked her, who are you? Are you living? Are you the living? And so we just we rose her from the dead. We started this out with all rise and sing. So in subject status, she can speak. She can speak, but even then, she was still claiming the dead thing instead of being more subject ipso jure. So that's going to have to be cleaned up. You're going to have to clean that up. And stop claiming property when she doesn't really have any. And I'll say this too, Morris. Any Moors, myself included, if I was to claim that I have a mortgage, I'm claiming to be dead. I don't have one. And guess what, Morris? None of y'all have them either. They're using instruments and getting you to claim to be that instrument. So what do? You don't just let it go by the wayside that they're trying to get you to identify yourself improperly and unlawfully. You respond. You rebut. You create title. You send delirium. You put all of that on the public record. Notify, notify, notify. So we're not in la-la land saying that documents don't come in a mailbox with a corporation pretending like they own something. What we're saying is we're always going to bring all subjects back to life, and we're going to deal with them on that level. And we're going to remain lawful. We don't just ignore the things that come through. We rebut them properly. That's what all of this is about. No, I'm not that Pauline that has any debt. That's an instrument. And the fiduciary document board, once you lean that thing, because see, you can go onto YouTube and see where we did a court action on the Pauline that she was talking about. And the social, go out on YouTube on like Tajiri Bay, January 1st, there was a court action on that Pauline she's talking about. So clearly, that's not me, because I'm the one who did the court action. And then what do? We have the fiduciary document, where Pauline Denise Ritchie in monochrome ink is an instrument that I use. It depends on who is claiming to be the state. The United States Corporation Company, if it's something they issued, it's dead. If it's something we issued, it's living, and it's subject to us. Period. That is what the fiduciary document is saying. When we issue it, it's living. When they issue it, it's dead. Everything that they issue, we must rebut it with a living, so we can use everything we need to use and use Delarium to pay for it. That's what all of this is about. With that being said, are there any other comments, any wisdom, any questions, anything of that nature coming from the heirs?
Islam.
Islam is
A quick question. What are the de facto Congress attempting to do with raising the fictitious debt limit they recently?
So what they're doing is waiting for the Moors to start putting Delarium out there to take care of the debt. It's their debt. It's not our debt. Okay? But when we start using Delarium, all we're doing is freeing our subjects. The corporation that you're talking about, they're actually subject to the Moors and they know it. But they have this debt that's out there relative to the things that they brought onto this land. They brought, they've imported conveyances, and they've imported all this other stuff. Forks, spoons, knives, everything. They've imported all kinds of stuff. So now when we see things that, first of all, we take care of anything that was previous. The modern European that was on here mentioned, she mentioned a mortgage. All of that stuff is stuff that the United States Corporation Company, they did measuring of or surveying of the land, and they assessed the value. That's what the tax assessor is. The records that you see on the tax assessor. So what this Congress is doing is all of that debt is compiled. All of it is compiled. For every piece of property, every conveyance, cell phones, pens, paper, anything, computers, all of that stuff. All of that debt is compiled. So what do? We issue Delarium for anything that's coming in the mail. Okay? It's not coming to us, it's coming to a mailbox. And it's coming and it's directed at their court. So what we want to do is do a court action. And when we do the court action, issue Delarium for whatever it is, whether it be utility bills, those things that we listed at the beginning of the call. We talk about utility bills, foreign court corporations, school corporations, mortgage and rent corporations, driver license corporations, retail food corporations, all of that stuff, bank corporations, all of that. So we just, anything that's coming saying that their corp has some debt, we do the fiduciary document, naming in monochrome ink the instrument, and then send the dollarium with it. So that those that are trying to call themselves raising a debt limit, the reason they're doing it in increments is because they're waiting for some specific things to be put on the record by us, which is they need to see, and it's not what they need to see because we're not trying to please them, but we need to be using dollarium more often, all of us. If all Moors would send out dollarium for just one document, not to mention several documents, then you'll see that whole thing disappear. Because see, they don't have any resources. All of their resources are based on what we do. So they're just trying to buy a little more time, because the places that they got all of the, like the materials and all of that stuff, those country corporations like China Corporation, they got a lot of that stuff on credit, our credit. They told China the Moors they need conveyances, they need forks and spoons, they need clothing, they need toys, they need whatever. They need all of these things, so we will bring the things in on their credit, and then when they wake up, they'll start issuing real money for the things that are there. And that's why those things that we're getting that are coming in the mailboxes, we do a court action saying this is not a court instrument. This is a monochrome instrument. And we're going to take care of whatever is being issued for the monochrome instrument. Okay? Because, again, we have to issue everything in order for it to be valid. If they issued it, all they're doing is issuing a quote-unquote statement, because that's what bills used to be. They used to be statements. Remember? When they would send them and say, this is not a bill, this is a statement. Well, a statement is just them saying, this is what's being shown as due, but we are the ones who have to issue the actual bill of exchange. And that is happening en masse right now, which is what they're trying, the fake Congress, the corporate Congress is trying to deal with. They're trying to deal with the fact that there's all of this debt. Thing that's coming through the mail. Any remaining thing that, can you hear me now? Okay. Yeah. Any remaining thing that's coming through the mail, we're rebutting it with dollarium so that they can go ahead on and close down and go on about their way. And the debt will be off of our land because we don't want debt on our land. We said we don't want it on there, but Federal Reserve debt notes does not take care of any debt. It creates more debt. So what they're trying to do is just say, okay, if we can just get, and they're looking for specific things, and we know what they're looking for, and with, more, I'll tell you this will help with what we're doing, is to send your name change and judicial proclamation, and any documents that you're sending out, send the Library of Congress a copy with some dollarium attached. because that's a public record also. And that's actually the public record whereby, and we don't pay any fiat, we just send dollarium, okay, because we're notifying them so that they can notify all of their subjects. So, and that will include the Congress, the Congress companies, the subjects that are doing business as Congress. That we're doing exactly what we said we would do. We would redeem all that has to do with us. That is our job. Our job is redemption of our creation. Redemption is a financial word, but it's also a spiritual word. So what they're doing is they're just looking for redemption. With that debt ceiling thing. And that's why when a little while ago on our last call, we pointed out how they were talking about invoking the 14th Amendment and just ignoring the debt. Because it has everything to do with status and who's actually paying the debt. And we're not, again, we don't have debt, but we're redeeming them. Because it's either they can languish in 14th Amendment status for another 50 or 100 years, but that's not what we said we would do when we woke up. And we want to keep our word and redeem the whole earth. We're their creators. So even the one that came on the call, this modern European who came on the call, even with what she's claiming, we actually have to redeem all of that. Because we can. We go to our printer, we print some dollarium, and we first redeem everything that has to do with us. Okay, we take care of ourselves first. Then we go about claiming and naming and taking and possessing all that we see on our land.
Okay. Yeah, you know. Yes, it still comes on every
Islam? I did not understand what you said, Empress. I'm not sure if you were wanting to.
Oh, you know, I was just started writing them out.
Good. Good. Because dollarium is also kind of sort of like it can be considered a bill of exchange, but it's also money, gold back money. Yeah. Yes, it is. So, however we choose to use it, okay, however we choose to use it is valid. And we've shown that in the Constitution.
She don't usually stay on too long. She usually gone after a couple hours. But yeah, so
Islam sister.
You gonna be up a while? Cause if she gets up.
Okay, I think she was having a conversation. But anyway, we pointed to the Constitution. We pointed to the canons. Justice Frank, go ahead. No, Billy.
It is really a shame now. It's sad. You know, since I've listened to you, thank you. And I found it in my deeds. You know what they said? I've been in my house 44 years. They said, you'll never own it. Somebody, a hybrid, owned my house. And I've been in my house since 1977 was the year. This is 2021. And they said, you never own it. And they said, and then I paid for the house in 1998. I'm BA. I'm Navy. But then, you know, got a crazy unconscious Asiatic, which my mother's children. And then I took a second mortgage. So now I found to pay for the house again in 2006. Did you know that they said somebody owned my house, and no matter what I do, I could be 1,000 years old. They said somebody got my house for $1. This is forever and ever and ever. No matter if I live to be 1,000 years old. Since
well, Justice Frank,
Well,
you know,
I know now, but
that's the same thing we're saying about the citizens. No matter what they do, no matter what they pay with, if you're paying with fiat, that's the wrong jurisdiction.
No, they're paying
to try and, you know what I'm saying?
I'm saying that the paperwork, the process is correct that we're doing, that they taking our process and our paperwork, but they only paid $1. I purchased the house. This is a VA house, number one. And they wanted $12,000, and it's up. They came in, the prices up $10,000. Doesn't matter. Our processes are 1,000% correct. We are the heirs.
Yes, absolutely.
They pretended to be us. But I can't believe that I looked at my deed, and it's still somebody. I've been in my home. Listen, I was in my home 44 years. They paid $1, and I'm still a slave. That's what I'm telling you, Justice Frank. That's what we're saying. That's what we say all the time. The citizens will never own anything, and if you're using fiat, you're in citizen status. And I'm just saying, not you, but I'm just saying, because you know you're not a citizen. No, I'm living.
But what I'm saying is, I don't care what they do. They're never going to own anything in that status right there. They're never going to own anything in that status. They have to be in subject status, and we have to be in our proper status and using lawful money. We have to.
I'm saying our proper.
Or else that kind of thing keeps still. It's a treadmill of debt that they can never get out of.
I'm just saying that what we're saying, we need to pay attention because our processes does work.
Yes, absolutely. But there's no alternative to the processes. There's no alternative to what we're doing that's going to work.
All right, I get it. All right. Listen, what I'm saying is all of this, I bought this for using my home, they only paid $1 for that? When?
Yes, and here's the thing. They do that dollar thing on paper because they know that the money determines the jurisdiction of the exchange. They know that.
All I'm saying is, our proper work is absolutely correct. I don't know what to tell you. Yeah. I'm just trying to tell you, you're not wasting your time. And who needs to be convinced? But I feel like a fool. I'm 72 years old, man.
Yes, that's craziness that you've been in there that long.
I wouldn't care nothing until I become competent and you forget it. And we American us. We talk about 1861 and 1781 and 1761. Well, yeah.
We have to be in our rightful status. That's that's what I have to say about that, Justice Frank. We're running a little bit over. We're running a little bit over time, Justice Frank. But I'll say this: we got to be in our proper status, or that's the kind of treadmill we'll be on. If we don't get in our proper status and use this delirium to get ourselves where we need to go, then that's what we're gonna have to deal with.
Let me say this. The answer is kicking her butt. It has nothing to do with even Sister Light. She's just the light of the world. I don't... would you please think that you're doing her a favor? I don't know what makes her and push her. That's the ancestors, I'm going to tell you.
Yeah.
And she's just a wonderful person. She ain't charging you nothing. That's the crazy part. And
no, we don't charge anything. We don't charge anything.
It's DOLLARAM. Everybody who $1, but what about the IUM? That's meditation, right?
Yes.
We are the
Islam.
What are the other?
All right, Justice Frank. We got I want to go ahead and tear down the call. I know you could talk all day, and I could talk to you all day, Justice Frank. You know that. But we're going to go ahead and bring the call to a conclusion. Thank you for that. Thank you, Justice Frank. We appreciate you.
I'm just trying to let the people know, man, we need to do better. When you know better.
Yeah. Yes. I could go all day on that, Justice Frank, in terms of we got to be ourselves or else people are getting played like fiddles because of the wrong status.
It's like
the one that came on the call, she, I get what she's trying to say, but wrong status. We all have to be in our proper status. So with that being said,
one thing, but
are there any other
They scared.
Yeah, Islam doesn't Frank.
They're my favorite
Thank
too.
you.
I want to remind you.
Thank you. Thank you. Are there any other questions or comments from any of the heirs here? Islam.
Oh Lord, here you go.
Thank you, Justice Frank.
Oh, I done said the wrong thing. Okay, that's them. That's them.
No, you haven't. No, you haven't. You're right where you're supposed to be. You're right where you're supposed to be. That's where you're supposed to be. Right there.
With yourself.
You're good with me. You know. Your credit is endless. So Islam. Empress.
Yeah, this is Carla. Question. I sent an email. I don't know how long it's going to take. It's been about 2 weeks about the Gmail.
Hi.
Solarium, and I followed all 5 of your steps, and I went back and started doing more, but I haven't received anything from anyone yet.
You sent an email with some Delarium.
No, I don't have any Delarium. I sent an email to do the request like you asked, but I don't know if anyone.
Yes.
Mailbox.
Yes, I'm working as quickly as I can. I will say this, as of last week, I was about 500 emails down, and now I've made significant progress on that. So give me just a little while longer. We will send, in fact, you know what, Empress, give me well, I'll just go through the emails and look, because I don't want you to say your email on this platform.
It's been changed. The other one locked me out. I don't know why. But
Yes, Empress, this platform does crazy things sometimes because of what we're doing.
Yes, but I also have this information for you for some everyday teaching here in the territory where I live. And actually, we can do it everywhere. Maybe we can collaborate with some other people that's more just interested in education component.
Islam. We put so much out onto onto YouTube, and that's we're always open to sharing. Always.
Okay.
Always.
Thank you.
Yeah. Islam is. Thank you too for your demonstrations. I'll go through the emails and try to move up forward. My Empress is starting to help me with that. She did her first lien this week.
Yeah.
So I'm excited about that because I'm going to have help with the liens. I'm good now.
I do have a question.
With that being said, yes, Islam Empress.
Yeah. My question is, I've liened like 2 school counties. So once I did that, should I go back and redo it again? Because I gave them all 8 of the documents and I put it on the package all together, but I haven't heard anything from anybody. And I put it on a public record.
Did you do them in red and all lowercase letters?
Yes, I did.
Okay. You shouldn't hear anything from them necessarily, but know that the liens did work.
Okay.
So now, whatever it is, because the liens is a part of a process of possession and stopping the fraud, okay? So then whatever it is that you're doing, whatever the next steps are, go ahead and move to the next step. Because we showed you tonight where once the lien is on the record, it's a perfected lien.
Okay, I just need to go.
We showed that in the tenant. So whatever you're doing next, move to that next stage or phase in your process.
Okay, I was doing all former employers.
Okay, Islam.
Thank you.
So with doing all former employers, again, once you lien them, when you put the lien on the public record, send Delarium and put that with it so that you break that set of KV trust that they've been continuing to try and access.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. You're welcome, Empress. That's why I love what we do here, because we can point straight to the law and say, there it is right there. Everything we're doing absolutely works. But there was a concerted effort to try and make us think it wasn't. But we know it. We know it. That we can see that everything has, it's all about the Moors. Islam, there was someone else who was going
that's
Islam nobility.
I'm not going to kill you, Sister Light, but Then since
wait a minute, hold on, Justice Frank. Hold on, Justice Frank. There was someone else who said something.
Right.
Hold on, please. Since you had a time, there's someone else who was, if you don't mind, to let the nobility speak. Oh, the other noble. Go ahead, nobility. Go ahead, nobility. I see him on the. I see his line open on the sound meter. If you're speaking, we can't hear you. I hear you trying to say something, but for some reason your the audio is not clear. Okay. Okay.
I think there was
is there anyone who has not asked a question? Justice Frank, I'm gonna hold you off a little bit longer so that we can make sure we get to the other Moors.
I have patience.
Islam.
I think it was me. I got different voices. You know that, did you?
Islam, Empress Light, thru.
There you are. There he is. Go ahead, nobility.
All right. I put a question in the chat concerning the flags, the banners that are out flying. If anyone should accept the Delorium, I think that should help promote them to make the changes as well and fly our flags.
That can be put in there. That can be put in your document.
But you understand what I'm saying?
See, yes, I do. You're saying that when we send them the Delorium, we tell them to fly our flag.
Right. Businesses they're flying a flag that's no longer in existence.
So you're absolutely correct. Where we are in the process is we have to fly our flag first, and they will follow suit. We're training them. Okay, and we're still a little early in the process. Delorium has only been out about 2 months now. So we have to, and that's why I'm saying, keep sending it out. Moors are doing an awesome job of sending it out. Keep sending it out. Keep doing it with every demonstration. Demonstrate Delorium. So that way, and again, their banners will come down. All we have to do is focus on making sure our colors are flying at all times. Our job is to make sure we do our part. They will do theirs. They will do it, definitely.
Islam.
Okay. So, and we're also preparing for a major, massive wake-up of Moors that are coming. So we still have that ahead of us in terms of a massive being able to assist them as they wake up. You know. So with the modern, you know, with the occupiers, we're not even really paying that much attention to what they're doing because we're so intent on making sure that we are doing everything that we're supposed to be doing, because as you can see already, that when we're minding our estate, they will move out of the way. They'll get out of the way. We see that in the news and the different venues and them talking and all of that. The less attention we pay them, the less vocal they will be. I'm surprised to hear even the one that came on the call. I'm surprised.
I'm not.
Yeah. But that's because we got work to do. We got to save ourselves first, and then we can talk about, everyone else. But we gotta save ourselves first. So their flags will come down, or banners rather, because it's not even a flag; it's a banner. Their banners will come down over time. Some are already down, by the way. Some are already down in each of the territories as well. And I apologize for not being able to keep up with the chat as much tonight because I wanted to, you know, focus on the canon. But yeah, we're good.
It's still in your support, Sister Light. I just still can't. I'm 72 years old. I can't understand that. I don't understand what are they concerned about. Don't they realize the alignment is real gold and silver? And that's crazy for me. Now, I understand it, and that's the real money, and it's a couple other things. Y'all, I just don't 100%.
Well, think about, you know, and I'll say this really quickly in conclusion. In conclusion of our call, we
got the money.
Federal Reserve debt notes some value. We did that. No one else did that. And it wasn't backed by anything but us and our
But we talked to them.
They call it full faith and credit. So how much more our own money? How much more our own money? The whole earth was eating off of us. I don't think that sometimes, I mean, it kind of dawned on me a little bit today. The ancestors are purposefully not letting me see the full magnitude of what we're doing right now because it's magnanimous.
It's real gold and silver, though. We are the money. And I know
we're it.
I know we
are it.
I've been doing
and then, you know, and I'll say this again in conclusion of the call. We are overturning hundreds and hundreds of years of money changers on our land. Hundreds and hundreds of years of money changers who've been fraudulently changing things out on our land. We have successfully collapsed the fraud. We just have to keep doing it so that the new ones that are coming will know how to do it and they won't have to go through as much as we went through. And we don't really want them to. We want them to wake up and just be the heirs that they are. You know.
Well, I was hurt. They said like followers. What is she talking about? That's the ancestors. It's nothing to do with you. That's the part that me. I'm 72. What does that got to do with life to do with faith?
That's true.
All you're doing is you're gifted. But I'm saying they killed Kennedy.
Well, right.
They locked people up. That we are the gold and we are the money.
Yeah.
That's monopoly. And then okay. So they messing with us about you can't go to the store. What they did it, they gave money all over the place so we can get hooked on dope, which is fiat currency. It's a Federal Reserve. No, we are the creditors, and they did. Oh Lord, I'm gonna shut up.
Yeah, that stuff has a curse on it. Yeah, it has a curse on it. The fiat has a curse on it that we need to break that. We need to break that.
We showed them what to do, and then now we're trying to correct what we showed them because we had good intent. They the subject, we the heir, we the sovereign, they the subject, and we hired them to be our surveyors. And George White say, "Well, I'll tell you, if you just say republic, you got a government. It's not a democracy. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I like shut too. I listen better than I talk. You think I talk a lot?
Islam Empress.
I just wanted to share, Cynthia and Bay here. I just wanted to share that we may have a couple of unsatisfied customers on our call, but a lot of Albions around me are pretty happy about what we're doing. So it's just a few of them, and we shouldn't concentrate on them. They know I know they come into our calls, but they know. You're right. They know what's going on, and a lot of them are really happy that we finally stood up. And I just wanted to share
Yeah,
that.
because they don't have to pretend anymore. They don't have to pretend like they own an estate that they don't own. They can stop acting. And not and you know, again, the three subjects that come onto the call, it's the same three that come onto the call. And, you know, we love them. They haven't stopped a thing. We just keep going. And, you know, they know the truth just like we do. So, and again, we're willing to hear anyone who has something to say. We want to hear it. As long as it makes, in other words, you can't just complain about things. You got to actually look at the law and say, okay, we're doing this, and this is why this is being done. And that's what these calls are about, is to point to the law, and even if it's codes and statutes, we can make it the law, because we're here to write and enforce law. Point blank, period. Islam. With that being said, peace and grand rising to the sovereign, original, indigenous, natural, divine heirs, Islam.
Peace and grand rising, heirs.
Islam.
Grand rising.
Yo, an hour after he left,
Much love, much love.
I was like, yo, when I laid down, I felt, because my window was open, I felt someone blanket, like that spirit blanket.